This program is brought to you in association with First National Bank of Botswana. Welcome to First Issues. A pandemic-prompted change in working practices has brought about only slight progress in women in senior leadership. This is an excerpt from the Grant Thornton's 2023 International Business Report (IBR) research into women in business in the global mid-market. According to the Society of Human Resource Management, just over 10% of Fortune 500 companies are led by women, with a new list of 5 new female CEOs bringing the total number to 53, an all-time high. The Grant Thornton report argues that unless businesses develop cultures that empower people through flexible ways of working and taking additional steps to support women into senior leadership positions, only 34% of senior leadership positions in mid-market businesses globally will be held by women in 2025. The report goes on to state that while progress of the overall number of women in senior leadership continues, research reveals that it has been stagnant or slow at best, increasing only half a percentage point to 32.4% globally and stagnant at 39.8% amongst African businesses. So what is the way forward? Director Taxation Olivia Muzwidziwa and Assistant Director Admin and Finance Sangita Ashwin, both from Grant Thornton, Botswana, give further insights into this report. Thank you so much for coming on First Issues and affording us your time. We're talking today about the Grant Thornton report on international business, where it shows that the appointment of women to senior leadership positions has plateaued or at best slowed down. Perhaps we could start off our conversation by you explaining why that has been.
Okay, the plateauing refers to the Africa as a region, not the world at large. Some regions have been growing. The research did not go into a deep dive as to the reason for the plateauing, but one would maybe think COVID impact as well. Because if you look at the period, that's the period when most economies slowed down because of COVID and businesses were negatively affected.
The Grant Thornton International Business Report has been prevalent in the last 19 years. You would have seen from the research that it has been plateaued or stagnant for the last 2 years, where the increase has only been 0.5%. But if you look at the research in general for the last 19 years, in 2019, the women in senior leadership position was only 15%. As against in 2023, it's increased to 28%. There has been a tremendous growth in that aspect. The reason could be that the pandemic in this last 2 years, but having said that, for the first time in the entire world, the women in senior leadership position has crossed by 30%. And it's a proud moment for Africa where we have even crossed 40%. So that's where we are.
Olivia, you noted in the report that with the increasing emphasis on global standards and corporate social responsibility, diversity and inclusion, companies are under pressure to, amongst other things, form diverse leadership teams and remain attractive to investors. Well, one would assume that with that much pressure, we would be seeing an exponential growth of women to these positions. My question is, why has that pressure not translated to those high numbers?
I would say that it has indeed translated, because if you look at the figures, we reached 30% a few years back, and now we're at 40% in Africa. So for me, that's exponential growth in women in leadership position. And it shows that, you know, the companies in Africa or businesses in Africa are moving with the global trend. Actually, if you look at the report, Africa is leading in terms of the proportion of women in leadership positions worldwide.
Would you say that those numbers are where they should be, considering how long the call has been that women should be appointed to senior leadership positions?
Okay, what we are aiming at is gender parity, where we have equal proportions or almost equal proportions of men and women in leadership positions. And at 40%, I think we are getting closer and closer.
Sangeeta, in the report you're quoted as saying, businesses with hybrid working practices are more promising for women to reach senior leadership roles, right? The organization should embrace a culture and commitment to new ways of working, which is vital. May you please share further insights into what you mean by this? Why would this new way of working be promising for women?
Women need to bring balance to life. There are different ways of working that anyone could adopt, especially for women. The strategy shows that you can either have a hybrid way of working, you can have an on-site way of working, there's a complete flexibility, and there's a home-based. It's a proven fact from the research that 53% of the women are in senior leadership position, as against only 36% growth that's seen on the on-site or on the office side of working. The positive side to look at it is the pandemic has brought a change where people can now work from anywhere. The technology has made it happen. These are the factors which gives more opportunity for women to be on a senior leadership position. It gives them an opportunity to fulfill their dreams, they can balance their life, and it's actually for everybody, not only for women, even it's for men. So this mode of working, and the main aspect is the culture and the commitment of the organization should provide the way for this path.
You both hold senior leadership positions within your place of employ, which is Grant Thornton, Botswana. Would you say that that was a deliberate effort by your employer to provide equitable opportunities for women to be appointed to these roles? And if yes, what were the metrics that were used to facilitate that happening?
I would say yes and no. Okay, because yes, deliberate efforts are being made, especially at the recruitment level, offering equal opportunities, recruiting women as well as men, giving the same opportunities to men and women, so that we create a pool of resources for leadership positions which comprises both men and women. Appointment and promotion at Grant Thornton is based on performance and capability.
Definitely in Grant Thornton, Botswana, women in senior leadership position and women in general are more. In Grant Thornton, Botswana, we have 74% of our employee as women. As far as the senior leadership position, some of the aspects and the tools that they gave us is there is equal gender parity. They give the opportunities, the pathway to those roles. There is a lot of training, mentoring, coaching that is given for the women in particular and women-only programs. So the opportunities are endless. Even internationally, it's the same thing. That's why we advocate on push for parity across the region.
Well, that is Grant Thornton. So what do you think that other companies are missing that they perhaps could look into or learn from Grant Thornton?
If you look at the Grant Thornton Business International Report, there are some of the strategies that they have enlisted there, what the other organization can do or can adopt and change to the needs of their organization. If I have to name a few, there are about 5 to be in particular. The organization can bring in more flexibility that suits their various operation. They can have the transparency and nurturing aspect in their role of work, and there can be more different methods of working, like we had alluded and elaborated, like hybrid or on-site and stuff. But keeping that in mind, they have to act knowingly and also have to refine these kind of working, because none of these working comes without a pitfall or a disadvantage. So they has to be mindful and they have to motivate these things. So there must be a motive and refinement in all these aspects.
So in the end, how do you see this slowing down or plateauing of the appointment of women to senior leadership positions evolving over the next couple of years?
With the increase of recruitment, or it starts with the education of the girl child, we see improvements in that. So which means we are creating a pool of women in the labor market who can then compete for these positions on equal footing with men. So I see it growing, and what we are aiming at is equal opportunities for both men and women.
In today's world, for an industry or an organization to remain robust, relevant and resilient in the ever-changing market, they have to be legislations, organization culture, organization commitment. We do have something called ESG, or environmental, social and corporate governance. They provide some of the frameworks where there must be women in senior leadership positions and even in the board. There is the external pressures that has been put in the mid-market businesses where women in senior leadership posts is not only looked for just the parity or gender equality. Women bring in a lot of diversity. There is a talent pool. There is a strategic view to it. Businesses in venture capital and private equity, external stakeholders and other businesses and investors are looking for these aspects before they enter into a business. So these are some of the main key aspects that aspire a woman to be in a senior leadership post, and also for the corporate. The basic difference is between then and now. In the whole world, there is an aspect and mind change and acceptance that has come. So that's the key factor, I would say, for women in senior leadership.